Hello and welcome to PowerDrift. My name is Shumi and I'm happy to tell you that one of the most bonkers motorcycles on the planet, the Ducati V4 Streetfighter, is now on sale in India. Ducati India will sell you the V4 and its higher cousin, the V4S both. Now, if you've been lucky enough to ride any of the motorcycles that go in this class, things like the KTM Super Duke R1290, which makes about 180 bhp, or the legend, the Aprilia 210 1100 factory, which makes about 175, you should know that anything above 165 bhp is basically asking for trouble because they are just so fast and so impressive to ride. But the Streetfighter, it raises the bar another level altogether because it's based obviously on the Panigale V4's 1016 stradale engine. Now it's quite the piece of work because it's a 1103cc V4 which is smaller than the previous engine and it is a lot more powerful. Get this, in stock form the motorcycle makes almost 210 bhp, which for a naked is absolutely mind-boggling. It also has 123 Nm of torque, which is also a lot of torque, and Ducati says it's not designed for horsepower as much as it's designed to have a lot of torque right through the rev range. So you should be very excited, but you should also be more than a little bit scared because this thing promises to be nuts. Now, the whole thing weighs 199 kilos, less than 200 kilos for the V4S, which means that the power to weight ratio is absolutely off the charts. And you can do better. If you also get the optional Akrapovic exhaust system, the motorcycle loses another 6 kilos and the power goes up to 220 PS, which is absolutely mind-bendingly scary territory. Now, think about it. A naked motorcycle at 175 bhp like the 210 is already a motorcycle that is hugely impressive in the way it makes power, so the Streetfighter is going to be absolutely off the scale. But let's rewind a little bit and talk about how they built it. Now, initial prototypes were basically the Panigale with the fairings taken off, and Ducati quickly realized that that was not the optimal way to make the new motorcycle, so a lot more work was done. But in terms of the way the chassis is constructed, it's very similar to the Panigale V4. So the engine is the heart of the frame and almost everything is mounted onto the engine either via subframes or directly. Now the V4, the base model, it has a Sachs fully adjustable rear shock. It has a fully adjustable Showa big piston fork in the front, and in that sense it's a fairly well-equipped motorcycle already. But if you pay the price difference to the V4S, you move on to Ohline's top of the line equipment, and this time it's electronically controlled semi-active suspension, which means that the motorcycle actually reads what's going on via the IMU and is able to control compression damping, rebound damping and other parameters on the fly electronically without you actually having to do anything with screwdrivers and spanners. And the Ohline Smart EC2 system, the system that governs this, also uses a menu-based system which basically breaks down the complexities of having to remember numbers of click of compression and clicks of rebound into something simple like saying make the motorcycle sportier or make it more stable, and you can set up this quite well. Friends of mine who ride at the racetrack with us on Panigale V4s actually find the system quite simple, and those who move on from the system and find that the difference in damping sometimes gets in their way, they can simply lock it like old school suspension and not have it change its setting as you ride along. But the naked motorcycle's challenge is not just suspension control, it's also aerodynamic control because they are less aerodynamic than fairings, and fairings allow manufacturers to tune stability at higher speeds, which for a naked is obviously a challenge, and that's why the Streetfighter V4 also has winglets. Ducati says at 270 kmph, those winglets are worth 28 kilos of downforce, which would reduce its tendency to wheelie, and a 200 bhp bike weighing about 200 kilos is going to wheelie a lot if you let it. But the winglets do help, and Ducati says they also discovered as the winglets worked and were fine-tuned that there is a difference in the way the motorcycle turns in and feels stable in the middle of the corner thanks to the winglets. Do you think we should take the winglets off when we test it and see what happens with the winglets on and off when we get the Streetfighter test bike? Let us know in the comments. Now, let's talk about the suspension for a bit. You've got Sachs and Showa on the V4, you've got Ohline's on the V4S, you've got a Sachs steering damper on both of them, and you've got brakes now from Brembo. Now, Ducati has not skimped on the equipment here, so you've got the Stelema calipers running on 330 mm rotors. That should tell you how serious the performance is because the Multistrada is the only other Ducati they used to put 330 mm rotors on until the Panigale came along. At the back is a single disc, obviously. All the electronics that you can imagine have been packed into the Panigale V4, and those have moved on to the Streetfighter as well because obviously these are Ducati's flagship motorcycles. So the IMU, it talks to the control system on the Ducati, and you're able to do up and down quick shifts, you're able to do cornering ABS, and remember the up and down shifts are lean sensitive. You also have the control over the riding modes, and on the V4S the riding modes also control the suspension setup, also the ABS settings. There's also engine brake control. The feature that we do need to talk about is Ducati's slide control, which is an incredible little idea, because what it basically says is that a new rider can set it up to have no slides at all, which means as soon as the Ducati goes sideways, the Streetfighter's control system will bring it back into line. But a slightly more advanced rider might be able to set it up to slide a little bit before it stops, so you could look like a hero but have a safety net at the back. An advanced rider might set it up to be even more lurid, allowing much bigger slides, and the idea of that is that you can tighten a cornering line and make the corner shorter and get through the corner faster. Now all of this magic is passing through Ducati's usual tyre partner Pirelli, which is equipping these motorcycles with the new Diablo Rosso Corsa 2 tyres. Now the Rosso Corsa, I've used it on my street triple a long time ago. It was already a very impressive tyre. The Rosso Corsa 2 is supposed to be a massive improvement over that. I'm very happy to see that the Super Corsas are not on the Streetfighter as standard, because I love the Super Corsas. They are such great tyres, but for India they're primarily track tyres and they run out really quickly. They wear out so fast because they're so soft and so grippy that honestly a street motorcycle with Super Corsas is either a rich man's plaything, or you're just going to have to go through life replacing tyres really quickly. So a Rosso Corsa 2 I think is a very reasonable choice on that front. So in sum, the Streetfighter V4 is completely nuts. 200 bhp plus, 200 kilos or thereabouts, all the electronics you can imagine, top of the line suspension, top of the line brakes. The biggest problem for most owners will probably be the heat, which we'll have to learn to deal with, because two things: one, the Indian heat is not going anywhere, and two, if you're going to ride fast motorcycles with big engines, you're going to have to get used to the heat, because heat is the basis on which internal combustion engines run. And we've done a video on this in the simplified section. Please go watch it if you haven't. We'll leave a link for you in the description. But heat is how internal combustion engines run, and therefore waste heat is going to happen and we're going to have to deal with it. The more fairings we have, the more there is an opportunity to divert the heat away from the rider. But when you don't have fairings, like on the Streetfighter, that's not going to be possible. So now let's talk about availability, deliveries and all of that part of the process. And Ducati says the motorcycles are actually here in India now, so they can actually deliver the motorcycle to customers who book them as soon as humanly possible. However, the COVID-19 lockdowns also mean that locally this situation is a little bit difficult. So do reach out to Ducati if you're planning to book one. The dealers are available online off their social media. Ducati India says you can reach out to them directly over social media if you want to. This is an unprecedented situation and they think that they can respond to you directly and try and get at least the paperwork done before the motorcycles can be delivered to you. But tell us one thing before you go. In this class of motorcycle, there's not a lot of this kind of crazy motorcycles going on. The choices are the Tuono V4 1100 factory with all the bells and whistles. That one also has electronic suspension now. The 1290 Super Duke R and the Streetfighter V4 or the V4S. Which of these three motorcycles would you pick? Leave us a comment. Thank you so much for watching. I would like to remind you that just like you, we would like to be outside riding motorcycles as soon as possible, and for that we are doing everything we can. So this video is being recorded in my house. My mask is up and I'm staying away from people as much as possible, and I would like to do this so that this pandemic is behind us as soon as possible so that we can get outside again. If you haven't been vaccinated, PowerDrift urges you to go get vaccinated, and in the meantime, please stay inside, stay away from people, stay away from COVID if you can. Best of luck, stay strong, stay healthy. Thank you so much for watching.